Sure. First of all, let me say thank you for everyone's time. I realize we all have very busy schedules, and so making an opportunity to be here, or sorry, making time to be here is important because we're all here for positive solutions. I really appreciate all of the input and especially the questions that will lead us to finding solutions and action items that we can move forward with. So I just want to say thanks for that. We will try really, really hard to be concise. I will try like heck to not be overly wordy, and we'll allow follow-up questions and new questions that may come up through conversation, but let's all try to be cognizant of each other's time.
Awesome. So Lee, do you want to talk a little bit about, what's been going on? Obviously this year is way different than last year when we had a similar town hall. Yeah. So if you want to just give a little update on what's going on in the organization, and then I can jump into the questions that were submitted.
Yep, sure, happy to. So we are in a much better place than we were this time last year, not the least of which is because COVID has at least given us a little bit of a respite. I mean, I realize it's not where we'd like it to be. In many places, numbers are not anywhere near where we'd like them to be, but we are in a far better place than we were 12 or 13 months ago, both from an organizational and from a financial standpoint. There was a time when it was touch and go, and I would say that it's not any longer. We certainly are not, we haven't got a war chest full, but we're making progress. And part of that is because of the input that people have come forward with and the help that we've gotten. We also are in the process of restructuring the board. USOPC has given us a mandate that we need to have 33% representation on our board of directors and all associated committees. That process is going on right now. We will be compliant with that by January 1 when that mandate goes into effect. Just got done submitting our DE&I plan to USOPC's head of DE&I, Nitra Rucker. The meeting we had with them went very well. They're very pleased with our strategic initiatives and our objectives in that plan. I'll get into that a little bit more later on. I think somebody asked a question about it. And I guess last but not least, we feel really, really good about our investment in education and the partnership that we have formed with Indian River State College. I'll talk more about that in a little while, because I think that is integral to both our coach education plans as well as our junior development plans.
Okay, awesome. So as you mentioned, some of these are coming up in some of the questions. So we can jump into the first question, which was submitted by Scott Doney. And he was wondering what we're doing to encourage diversity.
That's a great question. So that is a larger initiative, I think, than just within the Olympic movement. But everybody knows that we have within diving, if there's one issue that we can point to very easily, it's the fact that we're a very homogeneous sport. And we are looking at ways to find resources, funding, and initiatives that we can implement. I mean, things that we can actually do to bring our sport to underserved communities and to minoritized the populations and try to expand our talent pool. Not only that, but we also want to make a strong movement towards equal access and better opportunities for access for women and everybody that there is in any group. There's any number of different possibilities within our sport, but historically we have not been as inclusive as I originally believed that we were. So we've got a plan with strategic initiatives and objectives that's based on near-term achievable results, and then longer-term things that we want to put in place, which include creating affinity groups, creating mentorship groups for women and for underserved communities as well. I'm happy to take follow-ups on that. That's a very broad, large question that we are just gotten done submitting that plan on. So if there is anything to follow up on that, I'm happy to take it.
And just to add a little bit more, there will be a call to action coming out soon after we get our DEI council back together. We're going to start forming working groups to work on some of these initiatives. So we will be asking for the help of our members in some of those areas as well, now that we have a little bit more of a solidified plan. To go off of that, Maria had asked whether or not there was a diving grant to bring diving into inner city and low income kids. Their pool has been closed due to COVID, but I thought it would be a good time for you to go into, what we have for grants right now and what we are hoping to do in the future.
Sure. So one thing to add to what Kelly said a minute ago, it's going to take all of us to make a real change to our sport. And when I say that, I mean anybody who's got time and has the ability to add and lend a hand to the effort, please don't hesitate. Call, write, whatever you need to do to let us know that you're available to help out with this. It is going to take everyone to make a significant difference. And it's going to take some time. It's not something we're going to be able to implement tomorrow. With regard to the grant question, there does not exist a grant right now for such a thing. We are trying to find resources and funds to support those grants. We do have grants available right now through the Anthony Taylor Foundation that will help clubs. They're specifically for, and Taylor, if you're on, maybe you can help me if I'm incorrect in this one by typing in the chat, but I believe it's specifically to help clubs with equipment purchases, and they're primarily designed to go to, the grants themselves are primarily designed to go to clubs in underserved communities. I believe I am correct about that, but that is the only thing that exists in today's world. I expect
they actually can sponsor athletes through the grants. I'll put a link to the grant application. We'll actually be announcing this year's winners pretty soon.
Sponsor them for what though? Sponsor the
like a summer program.
Okay.
So they can, the grant is actually pretty wide as far as what you can do with it. You just have to put a plan together and then show that you've done what you said that you were going to do. I know Mission Viejo has had a lot of really great success with it, as well as a lot of other clubs that I'm leaving out right now. I think that John Fox also had some success with it at Moss Farms, but I will put a link to where the grant is on our website right now. It's pretty broad what you can do with it, as long as, the mission is to serve underserved communities, but it would be nice if we were able to do it on a larger scale. But we're really grateful to Anthony Taylor and everything he does.
And that's nice. Thank you for clarifying that. Taylor, thank you for chiming in. Also, the thing to be aware of is that we are not the only folks that are asking for resources to help implement programs like this. All of the NGBs are, and I know it will become a point of focus for USOPC and for the DE&I Council of the USOPC as we move forward to approach, whether it be sponsors, whether it be big corporate investors of some kind or other that will provide funding. It will be there. It's just not there yet.
Okay, awesome. So the next question is regarding membership fees and whether or not they'll stay the same for 2022.
Good question. Yeah, membership fees aren't going to go up, but they're not going to go down, not in the near future. We made a determination last year through some financial analysis that the only way that we were going to be able to stay afloat was to raise membership fees. Now, in the meantime, we've implemented some fundraising measures. We've put in place new technology. We have the ability to stream events. We're looking to monetize our assets, and it's a primary area of focus for USA Diving right now, so that at some point we can reevaluate, take a look at membership fees, and hopefully bring them back down. But in today's world, just being very honest with everybody, very blunt, there really is no other way to fund the sport. I mean, we get a limited amount of support from both our foundation and from the USOPC. Most of that goes towards high performance. The rest of it that keeps the lights on, pays the bills, keeps us in business, comes from membership and events. And the reality of it is we just are not a big enough, large enough NGB to command the kind of revenue that we can keep membership fees from increasing. It's, if I tell you anything else, I just would be giving you the sugar-coated story. That's the reality. Again, happy to take follow-up questions on that if you like.
Okay, while we wait, see if any questions come in. The next question is regarding high school diving programs. It's a pretty long question, so I'm going to try to kind of whittle it down. There's a lot of high school diving coaches and even a lot of diving programs that don't necessarily have the experience that diving coaches within USA Diving have. It's a little bit difficult for divers who maybe only have access to a program like this to develop correctly as divers and get the right techniques. And the question that was submitted was, is there any way to maybe partner with some of these high school organizations to have them use us as a resource to create better divers long-term?
So the short answer is high school, like the NCAA, is a completely separate entity that we have little, well, I shouldn't say little ability, but we don't have a tremendous amount of ability to influence what they are willing to do. That said, we can create programs which invest in coach education and make them available to high schools and available to high school coaches and available to coaches at every level for that matter. And we are in the process of doing that. That's one of the reasons we formed our partnership with Indian River State College, is because they have the resources to create curriculum, to write curriculum in a fashion that really works from an online, to create an online product that really works, to help us with resources that we just don't have access to right now. So our partnership with them is really based upon creating educational opportunities for our coaches. And that is something you'll see more of as time goes on. Takes some time, takes a little bit of investment. We do need to do some fundraising to help support some of that. But that is really the, one of our primary focuses. If I give you our three main areas of interest and our three main priorities over the next, well, the near term anyway: junior development, coach education, and then expanding our footprint and expanding our diversity and our inclusive, the nature of our sport to be more inclusive. Those are our three main ones right now. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, and then this actually brings us to the next question pretty well. What is USA Diving doing to become more transparent? Specifically, they were wondering about board minute meetings, budget information, and website redesign.
So first of all, board meeting minutes are posted on the web. You can go find all of them right now, back as far as I think 2013. They're on there. They're about a month behind because the meeting minutes from last month's meeting have to be approved at the next meeting in order to get posted. And I put them on there generally within a week after they've been approved. So I think what you'll find right now is they're all the way up through October, although it might still be September. I think it's through October. So they're there. All of our financials, as is the case with every 501c3 that I'm aware of, are public information, and they are also posted on the website. The 2020 tax return just got filed. As soon as we get it back, as soon as we get the 990 amended, because we have what's called an ERC, employment retention credit, that's going to be added to it. We'll change the number slightly. Once that's amended, we will post that tax return. But the 940s, the 941s, and the 990s are all there. So I'm not, maybe whoever asked the question can be a little more clear about what they're looking for in terms of transparency, if that person is on. Just put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it. And for those who aren't paying attention to the chat, Jason just put a great online course that was developed in conjunction with us for high schools when it comes to diving. So if you do know any high school coaches that are looking for a resource that's available right now, that's probably a really good place to start.
If I could, I want to give a shout out to Jason and the crew that he is leading, spearheading I will call it editing of our materials that are available now, as well as developing new materials for coach education. It's an arduous task. These guys are busting their tails to get it done. And again, hats off. They're doing a fantastic job. There will be many more of those to come. So again, thank you, Jason, to you and your committee.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. He's on, I feel like every single committee that I take part in, he somehow has his hand in. So, thank you. And he also put in the chat, the courses that are on the NFHS website are currently free, probably because of COVID. So it's a great time if there are some coaches that are interested in getting a little bit more education to go ahead and take those. Yep. And we'll send this out in a newsletter as well to the coaches in case anybody loses that link. The next question is regarding what we're doing to retain and grow the grassroots and lessons level, because it will be the main source of funding for the talent pool in the future.
Yeah, that's a tough question, because the things that we need to do really are a collective effort. The national office can only do so much in terms of growing grassroots or even making opportunities available, because they have to be put out through clubs, and that support for clubs, is a something that has to be built in terms of what is needed. And when I say that, I know it's a little cryptic. Here's what I mean. If I had more information from people on the front lines who are actually running programs with grassroots, where they're bringing in people who either have never dived before or very beginning level divers, if they could tell us and share with us what kind of resources would be most valuable. I realize money, everybody understands money is is at a premium. Let's talk about what other resources would make sense for us to try to go and secure for that effort. And that's, again, it's got to be collective. I don't know that there's anything that the five of us at the national office can do each day to further the grassroots program, other than collect information so that we can create programs and make resources available. I know that sounds like a very political answer, but it is the truth. So we would welcome your input.
Yeah, and all of our email addresses are available on the website. I'm sure that I think everybody on this call has our email addresses, but in case you don't, they're on the website, and we're always available for you to send in an email, and hopefully at the start of next year we'll be able to do a little bit more with some smaller group discussions that can be a little bit more open-ended and more focused on certain things like this. We already touched on this a little bit, but one of the next question is about Indian River State College, and as well as what we're doing in the greater area of Indian River State College and in the South Florida area. Now that Fort Lauderdale has their new facility opening up, has USA Diving thought about teaming up with them for a high performance center?
So great questions. First of all, let me just be really clear about Indian River and what we are doing and what we are not doing at this moment. What we are doing currently is partnering on putting together resources that allow us to develop educational programs for coaches and for junior development. That's our near-term initiative in Indian River. It is there is no movement of an operational center or a training center or anything like that to Indian River State College at this moment. There is not the facility for it, number one, and number two, it's not the intention. Maybe at some point, perhaps some point, that will be the intention, but the educational component is really valuable. They are a .edu. They have access to lots of resources that we don't, not just money, but tools, software, different things that we just don't have the capability to do, not the least of which is the ability to tap into some networking that will allow us to hopefully fundraise that can provide some of the resources that we're going to need moving forward. That's part A. Part B is, I think it's a brilliant idea to involve Fort Lauderdale and Indian River together to develop any number of different opportunities for training and for to conduct very high level competitions. I think we'll have those discussions. They've been initiated. We've already had at least one pretty open, candid conversation amongst the groups from Fort Lauderdale, the International Swimming Hall of Fame, myself, representative from FINA, and I have talked with the people at Indian River, and we can bring everybody to the table to promote that. One thing I want to ask the question of, and if that person is online right now, maybe they can help with, when will Fort Lauderdale actually be available for training camps and competitions? My understanding right now is that that's not going to be the case in 2022. It's more likely early 23. So if we had a definitive on that, if somebody's online who can help with that, that would be very helpful as well. But again, really good idea. We absolutely will be invested in and pushing forward the idea of promoting that partnership.
Okay. And then the final question that we have that were submitted is, what steps is USA Diving taking to encourage more interest in the sport, specifically from beginning level divers?
That's a really tough one too. I think the things that we're doing that are creating results now are at a small incremental level. They start with social media. They start with getting our contacts out there in the market where kids are, beginning to do sports at whatever level and wherever they want to. Because what has happened in the past, I think everybody's well aware that we've disappeared in non-Olympic years. So we have a great amount of interest come up in an Olympic year, and then the 3 years following kind of falls off the face of the earth, and so we lose access to a lot of talent because we're just not visible any longer. So it's up to us, first and foremost, to make sure that we are in the forefront of people's visibility. We want to make sure that they can see the sport, that they understand that it is an opportunity for kids of all ages and all, different ethnic backgrounds and so on and so on. That's number one. Number two, we have to learn and figure out, what resources we can make available to get people who don't live in a community where there's a real facility to a facility. And that's a challenge. It's a really difficult one. And we're working on that. I don't have a solution to that one. And then I guess number three is we've got to begin to break down some walls where people don't view themselves as being potential divers. It's been done in other sports. We can do it in ours. Tennis has done it. Gymnastics has done it. Hockey has done it. We can do it. It's just a matter we've got to make sure that we are continually and incrementally making progress and pushing that ball forward. And that's going to take a larger effort than just the group on this phone. That's going to take, on this phone call. That's going to take a large scale promotional campaign that we right now are looking at number one, what the media is that we use. Number two, how do we get something that's out there continuously all the time in terms of a diving channel or something like that, so people can see it whenever they want to. And then I guess number three is we got to create the access. We have to give people equal opportunity for access. And I guess I'm not telling anybody anything they don't already know, but those are the challenges that we face right now.
Yeah, and I will say, from a social media standpoint, we are doing a lot better than we were, and we are getting those people that are asking how do they get into diving, where can they sign their kid up for diving. So there is, and obviously, it helped that it was an Olympic year and we had a really great Olympic team, and our team was full of people that were great advocates for the sport. And that's something that, from a marketing communication standpoint, I'm really encouraging even our younger athletes to become more comfortable and realize that if they're on the national team, even if they're a 14-year-old on the national team, they're, the top person, one of the top people in the US in their sport. So they're automatically somebody that people look up to. But as an aside to that, I actually just posted on social media, and I'll send out an email later. We are starting a new Dive of the Week social media challenge. And it would be really great if you could encourage even your athletes that are just starting to dive. Every week is going to be a different dive. This week is a forward dive. It doesn't matter if it's the best dive or not. I think that the more we can make this sport approachable, the more we'll get people that actually can see themselves starting to dive, because not everybody, jumps off a 10 meter at 14 years old, like Josh Hedberg. Some people start a little bit lower. But those were the end of the questions that we had that were submitted. But if anybody has any additional questions or comments that you'd like for Lee to discuss, please feel free to put those in the chat, and we can go through those now. I'll wait about 5 minutes if I don't, or maybe 3 if nobody sends in any comments.
While we're waiting, let me make a shameless plug for everybody on this call to make it a commitment of theirs to try to bring somebody who has been removed from the sport for whatever reason back into the sport. Maybe they were a diver 25 years ago, they're no longer involved, and all it takes is sending a quick email. Hey, have you seen? Shoot them a link to something that's on YouTube. Get them involved, get them thinking about diving, get them talking about diving. Let's make it all of our responsibility to make sure that the people who were removed or are removed today come back to the sport, number one, and then number two, that they bring somebody with them. We can do really good things, a little piece at a time. A little bit, each of us has a sphere of influence that we can exercise it. Go out there and make sure you're talking to people. Make sure you're sending out whatever communications you want to. And then if there's something that needs to be done at a level that you just don't have the time or don't have the resources for, well, that's a time when you bring us in. Shoot me an email. Most of you on this call, I believe, have my cell phone. Shoot me a text or call me. It's okay. I really don't mind. The other thing I would tell you is we need people who are committed to finding solutions, not just pointing out problems. And that's a challenge sometimes, right? It's easy to say when something stinks. We all know when something stinks. That's the easy part. The hard part is then to say, okay, well, that stinks, but here's what we can do to fix it. And here's what we should do. Step number one, step number two, step number three. So action items are important, but you know what also is important? What does success look like? Bring that part of it at least. You know what, this stinks. This is what it ought to look like. Not exactly sure how we get from A to B, but that's what success looks like. If you can at least bring that portion of it, that's really productive. Did we get any other questions while I'm rambling on? Sorry about that.
We haven't, so Dave said the International Swimming Hall of Fame will not be ready for a high level event until the end of 2022 or early 2023.
What about for training purposes? Could we do a training camp if we wanted to, Dave? You know, I'm specifically thinking about high diving, but any kind of a training camp, really.
Yeah, and I'll wait for him to respond to that.
Okay.
One thing that I will mention, an easy way over the next month or so for you to bring people back into the sport of diving is we will be live streaming our Winter Nationals. So sending a link or sending some of the clips to some of your colleagues or former teammates is a really great way to get somebody not only back involved in the sport, but interested in USA diving again. We're really working hard to bring more video content to our platform because obviously, you know, that's the best way to showcase how amazing a sport diving is.
Yeah. One other thing I'll tell you, it's been too long since we've done one of these meetings. We've had so much going on. It's been, you know, it's my fault that we haven't done more of these. I would like to do more live town hall type meetings in the near future that can focus on, rather than taking 10 questions from 10 very different categories, maybe we focus on one or two in a 30 or a 45-minute town hall one week, and then a few weeks later we focus on a different one or two in a 30 or 45-minute meeting. And I would welcome anybody's input on, you know, what you see in the front lines are the most important things for us to focus on in the near term.
And Dave did respond. He said that it's possible that they might be able to be in the pool in March or April, but there'll still be construction going on. I think probably if you connect with him offline, he'll be able to give you a little bit more information about that.
Dave, I will definitely connect with you offline because I would not mind exploring and maybe even setting up a meeting to have those discussions that you asked about, as far as bringing the folks at Indian River into a conversation and getting us all around the table, or at least in a Zoom meeting of some kind. So thanks for that.
Nadine also mentioned that we can bring alumni back through masters diving as well, which is a great point. I will say, from a social media standpoint, I don't have a lot of content to post of masters divers. So if any of the people on this call have either stories or photos that they'd like to share, I'm always happy to share things on our social media that highlight that diving really is for everyone. But
is Jerry on, or is Ron Contura, or
I don't see Jerry's not on. There were a few people that were dialed in, but I didn't see him. His name isn't on there, so he might not necessarily be in there.
So anybody who's connected to Jerry or Ron or Lisa, or I know they've got content. It would be just a matter of making sure we connect the dots and get them to submit some of it that we could use.
Hey, and they can submit dives of the week too. I mean, so, but yeah, anything that any of you as coaches would like to send over, my email address is really easy. It's just kelly@usadiving.org. I think my cell phone number is also on the website, but I'm happy to, you know, post as much content as we can with as many different groups as we can. We don't want it to just be all top athletes.
Did we ever get an answer as to what that person was interested in terms of visibility, transparency?
I don't think that they're on the call. I didn't see their name on the call.
Okay. Hopefully they will watch the recording of this and then reach out, and we can make that answer available to everybody if it's something that we are falling down on right now.
Okay. I'm going to give it another minute in case anybody else has any follow-up questions, and then we're actually ahead of schedule this time. So we can, if nobody has any additional questions, we can go ahead and just end this, and then We're going to try to do another town hall, hopefully with a larger membership, either next month or at the beginning of 2022. So
Yeah, during the holidays, and especially given the Winter Nationals and the FINA General Congress and all that, might be tough, but certainly by early to middle part of January at the latest, I would say.
mhm. Okay. Oh, will renewals begin on December 1st for membership? The answer is yes.
Yes.
And you can all, if you see Taylor at Winter Nationals, you can give her flowers because she is dealing with all of the membership stuff. So.
Yep.
Okay, we'll just wait like another 30 seconds if anybody has any additional questions.
Just want to thank everybody again. I realize it's 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and that's late for some people whose days start early, and appreciate the time. And even for those who are not on the East Coast, I know it's a long day. So again, thank you for taking the time to do this. It means a lot.
Krista had suggested we reach out to ex-NCAA divers to join USA Diving, who might be staying in the States post-college. They could be a great member. I'm assuming that she might be talking about some international athletes that are staying in the States.
Sorry about
And
that.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Like the more people that we can get involved in the community in any level is awesome.
Yeah, and anybody who's got a suggestion like that wants to, flesh out the idea even more, welcome to send it to us, email it in to any of us, and or text or whatever, and we'll do what we can. And again, it's, I just want to underscore the point. It goes without saying, I think, but it's worth repeating. It's going to take all of us to really make a dramatic difference. I will tell you that if you look at where we were this time last year versus where we are now, some huge differences, and most of them really, really good. If we continue to move things along incrementally, we can definitely make positive impact, and that's really what this